Hello everyone, and welcome to the PySpark setup lecture. In this lecture, we're going to set up Spark, Hadoop, and Jupyter Notebook all on our virtual instance, that EC2 instance that we created in the previous or earlier lectures. Go ahead and log in or SSH into that instance so you're at the command line terminal for that Ubuntu instance. And then what we're going to go ahead and do is walk you step by step through everything you need to install through the command line on that instance. It's going to be a lot of typing, and it all has to be done exactly as shown on the screen. So in case you ever need to reference exactly what I'm typing, check out the resource for this lecture. It'll take you to a link where every step that I'm going to do is explained and typed out for you. I'm going to go ahead and jump to that console now. Okay, so here I am at the actual console. I've done an SSH connection. If you're on Windows, you're going to use PuTTY. If you're on Mac or Linux, you're just going to use basic SSH at your command line. First thing you need to do is go ahead and install Anaconda onto this virtual computer. You're going to type in as a command wget or wget, and then the link and the resources will have all this written out for you, so you can just copy and paste if you want, but we're going to use http://repo.continuum, notice the two U's there, .io/archive/anaconda 3-4.1.1- and then -x86 for that 64-bit _64.sh. Alright, so type that whole thing in, and this is basically going to download Anaconda onto this virtual instance. I'm going to go ahead and skip forward to this finished install or downloading. Alright, it's almost done downloading. There it is. And as a quick note, here I'm installing the latest version of Python 3, but you can replace Anaconda 3.4.1.1 with whatever version of Anaconda you prefer. So you can just check out the website, check out the download instructions for Linux, and see what the latest version is for 2.7 or 3, and just download that. So I'm using Python 3 here, but you can feel free to use Python 2 if you prefer. Alright, now what we need to do is just install that. So we're going to say bash Anaconda 3-4.1.1 -linux -x86 _64.sh. And I'm just going to hit enter. And there we go. So it's going to say, in order to continue the installation process, please review the license agreement. Please press enter to continue. And as you press enter, you'll see more and more of the Anaconda license agreement. Just keep tapping enter, or just hold down enter. You'll see the entire license agreement. You'll just keep pressing enter, go through the whole thing, and then eventually you'll see something that looks like this. Please answer yes or no. Then at the bottom you just say yes, and then it'll say Anaconda 3 will now be installed into this location, home Ubuntu Anaconda 3. That's exactly where we want it, so we're going to go ahead and press enter to confirm that location. Okay, and there's the prefix home Ubuntu Anaconda 3. Go ahead and just wait a little bit while this installs all the various libraries for Python that come with Anaconda. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward to the finished installation. Okay, so towards the end of your installation, Anaconda is going to ask you if you wish to install the installer at this basic path, home ubuntu.bashrc. That's exactly where we want it, so we're going to go ahead and just type in yes, and then hit enter. Okay, that's it. Now we're done with installing Anaconda. Just to make sure that everything's okay, what we're going to go ahead and do is check which Python we're actually using. Remember that Ubuntu actually already comes with Python, but we want to make sure we're using the Anaconda version. So in this terminal, I'm going to go ahead and type, let me go ahead and clear this so we get back to the top by just typing clear. Okay, and then I'm going to type in which Python. And you get back that it says it's using user/bin/python. That's not the Python I want. I want the Python that we just installed through Anaconda. And remember that Anaconda asked you if you wanted to set the bin in the bashrc profile. So I'm going to say source.bashrc, hit enter, and then I'm going to type which Python again. And now it responds that it's going to use the home Ubuntu Anaconda 3 bin Python, which means by now I can actually just type in Python and actually work with Anaconda Python 3.5 here in this Ubuntu terminal. So then I can say something like print hello, and it will print out hello. All right, so that's everything we wanted. I'm going to go ahead and quit this and then hit clear again. So we've done a couple of things here. We installed Anaconda, installed Python, and then switched the Python to the actual Anaconda Python. Now the next step is to configure the Jupyter Notebook. Jupyter comes with Anaconda, but we will need to configure it in order to use it through the EC2 and connect with SSH. We're going to go ahead and generate a configuration file for Jupyter using the following command. I'm going to say Jupyter Notebook -- generate -config, and then hit enter, and that's going to write a configuration file for us. The next thing I'm going to do is also create certifications for our connections in the form of .pem files. I'm going to go ahead and perform the following. I'm going to say mkdir, that stands for make directory, and then I'm going to go ahead and type certs for certs, or short for certifications. And then that created that directory, so I'm going to change directory into certs. So I'm going to say cd certs, change directory into certs, and here I am. You can actually tell to the left it's telling me I'm in that certs. And then I'm going to put in a command that's a little complicated, but let me explain it. I'm going to say sudo, so I make sure I don't get any permission errors. And basically I'm going to create some .pem files. I'm going to say open SSL req-x 509-nodes -days 365 for 365 days a year -new key rsa : 1024 -key out mycerts.pem -out mycert.pem. And if you don't want to actually type all that out, you can just copy and paste that from the steps in the resource link. I'm going to go ahead and click enter. It'll say that it's generating a 1000 or 24-bit RSA private key, which is what those acronyms stood for when I was typing that in. And so we have our new certification. Now you're going to be asked some information that will be incorporated into the certificate request. There's quite a few fields, but you can leave some blank. For some fields, there's going to be a default value. So it doesn't really matter what you enter here, but just try to answer them to the best of your ability. You can say country name is US, state or province. I'm going to say CA for California. Locality name, I'm going to go ahead and say, let's go ahead and say San Jose. Organization name, I'm going to say Purian Data. Enter. And you can really do whatever you want here. I'm just going to say data for this, and I'm going to leave Jose, my common name. Email address, we'll leave that blank, and there's our certification. Okay. So now what I want to do is edit the configuration file that I created earlier. So if you go back to the top here, notice I said Jupyter Notebook generate config. We actually still need to edit that configuration file. I'm going to go ahead and clear the console now by typing at the bottom CLER for clear, hit enter, and that clears your console. Let's go ahead and finish editing that Jupyter configuration file we created earlier. I need to change the directory that that file is in. So I'm going to say cd ~sign /.jupyter/ Then I'm going to hit enter. And then I'm going to use the visual editor, or VI, to edit the file. And this is kind of weird if this is the first time you've ever used a visual editor, because you can't just move around up and down in it. You have to say VI Jupyter _notebook _config.py. You run that and you get something that looks like this. And now what you're going to do is, using your keyboard keys, you can move up and down here. But if you start typing stuff, you'll receive errors or do stuff that's not exactly what you believe is going to happen. What you need to do now is go ahead and press I on your keyboard. And when you press I, you should see at the bottom there, it changed to insert. And now we can actually insert text into this file. And we're going to insert some text. I'm going to say, you can either copy or paste this from the resource link, but I'm going to go ahead and just type this in. I'm going to say C is equal to get _ config, close parentheses. Then next line, I'm going to go ahead and say C notebook app.cert file is equal to U /home/ubuntu/certs/ mycert.pem single quote. And that's basically just telling it where to find that certification that we just made in the previous step. Then I want to make sure that the notebook runs on all IP addresses on my instance. So I'm going to say c.notebookapp.ip is equal to, and in single quotes, I'm just going to put an asterisk in, which is going to be a filler for all IP address. Then I don't want to open a browser by default, so I will say c.notebookapp.open_browser, oops, make sure I spelled that right, is equal to false. And then lastly, I'm going to go ahead and fix the port to 8888. So I'm going to say c.notebookapp.port is equal to 8888. All right, that's all we need to do. And now, once we've typed this code in, or you can just paste this code from that resource link, you're going to press the escape key to stop the insert process. Then you're going to type in a colon, and you're going to see at the bottom a colon will show up, and then you're going to type W for write, Q for quit, and then an exclamation mark. Hit enter, and that will exit. And that's how the visual editor works. It's a little weird, so if you mess it up, just go ahead and click escape, colon, WQ, write and quit, or just Q for quit, and then start over again. Again, you can always reference the resource link for everything step by step, so you can copy and paste the code in case you don't want to write it manually. All right, so now let's go ahead and check that the Jupyter Notebook is working. In order to do that, all you have to do is type in Jupyter space notebook and hit enter. And you should see here that the Jupyter Notebook is running at HTTPS, all IP addresses on your system, :8888. What we're going to go ahead and do is make sure that works by jumping back to our browser. Okay, here I am back in my browser, and I'm at the EC2 Management Console. What you need to grab is your public DNS. You can find it here, or if you scroll over to the right, it's also available for you here. And you can expand this and check this out. But it should be in the form ec2-a couple numbers.uswest2.compute Amazon AWS. Should look something like this. You're going to go ahead and copy this, and then in a new tab, you're going to type some stuff out. And in this new tab, I'm going to go ahead and type in https:// and then I'm going to go ahead and paste that whole address, then say :8888 and hit enter. And then you should get something that looks like this. It may say your connection is not private. It may be trying to steal your information. You'll go ahead and click advanced. And if you're having any trouble with this, go ahead and switch to Google Chrome. Some browsers will just block your connection right here instead of warning you. And you should see something that says down here, proceed to it. Go ahead and proceed to it. And then after a little while, you should see your Jupyter Notebook system pop up. Okay, and there you have it. Jupyter Notebook is running on your EC2 instance. So again, just to make this really clear, this is Jupyter Notebook that you're connecting to over the internet, but everything you do here is actually happening on your virtual machine that's hosted somewhere else geographically by Amazon. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue on. We have Jupyter Notebook working. You should be able to just click here, New, Python root, and then do everything that we've done before with Jupyter Notebooks. So this might be a little slower than usual, depending on your internet speed, but here's Jupyter Notebook. We can go ahead and zoom in again, click print, hello, shift enter to run this, and there's hello. All right, so this is pretty awesome already that we get Jupyter Notebook running on Amazon AWS. If you wanted to, you could spin up just a super large instance of Amazon AWS with something like 160 gigabyte memory and just run huge pandas data frames if you wanted to, instead of just running multiple instances with Spark. But let's go ahead and show you how to install Spark. What I'm going to go ahead and do is jump back to the Ubuntu console. We're going to go ahead and just close these tabs. Go ahead and leave that. Let's go ahead and continue on. I'm going to jump back to the console. And in the console, I'm just going to kill this notebook by doing Control-C. It's going to ask you if you want to shut down the server. Click Y, press enter, and then let's go ahead and clear the console after it's been shut down. All right. Next, we need to install a couple things. Spark is written in Scala, so we need to install Scala. Scala depends on Java, so we need to install Java. Now let's go ahead and, at our command line, say sudo apt-get update. go ahead and run that. You should see a whole bunch of stuff come up. Just go ahead and let it run. It may take a little while, but just let that run. Again, it's just sudo space apt-get space updates. Okay, then it should look something like this. We'll go ahead and clear the console again and just press CD to go back home. And I'm going to clear the console again. Okay, let's go ahead and install Java. You install Java by saying sudo apt-get apt-get install default-jre. Hit enter. Go ahead and select Y, except that operation takes 227 megabytes, and then just run through this as it installs everything. So right now what this is doing is just installing Java. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward to it finishing installing and downloading Java. Alright, all of that is done. It should just take a little less than a minute to run. In order to check that it works, I'm going to clear the console and then type in java space dash version, hit enter, and you should see some sort of output here. It doesn't have to be this exact version, but you should see something that says, hey, Java is actually running. Now what we need to do is install Scala. We can go ahead and do that by saying sudo space apt-get install, and then say Scala, and hit enter. You'll see a bunch of stuff say OK, and what we're going to go ahead and do is click Y for yes, and install all of Scala there. Just let it run, and now it's done. I'm going to clear this to make sure it installed correctly. I'm going to say Scala space dash version. And you should see something that looks like this. Don't worry if you don't get this exact Scala version 2.92, but you should see something pop out there. Okay. And there's an option, if you want to install a very specific version of Scala, there's a reference for that in that resource link. Okay, we're getting almost to the end where we actually install Spark, but we needed to install one library which is called Py4j. And that allows Python to connect to Java. Unfortunately, in order to do this, we have to make sure that pip install is connected to our Anaconda installation of Python instead of Ubuntu's default. So in the console, go ahead and type export, and then in all caps, path equals $, all caps path, colon, $, all caps home, slash anaconda 3 slash bin. Hit enter, and then say conda install pip. And you should see an installation occur here, but basically what we're doing is we're installing conda's version of pip. Go ahead and click Y to install all that. It's going to download and install it. You'll see extracting packages, and that worked. We'll go ahead and click or put clear, and then type in which pip, hit enter, and make sure that it says anaconda 3 bin slash pip. If you did this correctly, it should have said that. Okay, now we can go ahead and install Py4j with pip by saying pip install Py4j, hit enter, and either it will say requirement already satisfied, but more likely than not, it's actually going to install it just like we did for any normal pip install. I installed it earlier that you didn't actually see that, so it says requirement already satisfied. But you'll make sure that it says pip install Py4j, and make sure that it's actually installing it into the Anaconda 3 lib. Alright, we're almost there. We just need to install Spark and Hadoop. Then we need to tell Python where to find Spark, and we'll relaunch our Jupyter Notebook to confirm that everything's working. To install Spark and Hadoop, you go ahead and just say wget and send it to the right mirror. I'm actually just going to copy and paste this from that resource reference, and you can pause the screen if you want and make sure that you match exactly, but you just say wget and send it to this link, http:/apache.mirrors.tds.net Spark, I'm going to use 2.0.0, Spark 2.0.0, bin, Hadoop 2.7, TGZ. Hit enter. That will download Spark itself, and then in the next step, we're actually going to install Spark by undoing this compressed file, this TGZ. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward to the finished downloading. Okay, it finished downloading, and then the next step is to actually just unzip this. So we can unzip this just by saying sudo tar-zxvf spark-2.0.0-bin Hadoop 2.7.tgz. Hit enter, and that's going to install Spark and Hadoop. Okay, Now, once that's done, go ahead and clear your console. And lastly, we just need to tell Python where to find Spark. Easiest way to do this is just copy and paste what's written in the resource link. I'm going to go ahead and do that. First line is this: export Spark home to home Ubuntu Spark 2.0 bin Hadoop 2.7. That's just telling Ubuntu where Spark home is. Then the next line is to tell where the actual path of Spark home is. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste that. And you can just right click into your Ubuntu console in order to actually paste that in. And then finally, one last export is to tell Python where the path is. So you can go ahead and copy and paste, or just type this out yourself. You can pause and type it out. It's up to you. Hit enter, and that's it. Now we're finally ready to launch Jupyter Notebook. Should work exactly the same as it did last time. Okay, and you should see that it's running at HTTP, all IP addresses on your system at 8888. I'm going to go ahead and hop over back to the browser to check it out. Okay, here I am back at the browser. Again, we're going to need this public DNS. Go ahead and copy it, and then type in https:// paste your entire path, and then :8888. Hit enter, and you should see the Jupyter Notebook pop up again. And if this is your second time doing this, you probably won't get a warning again. All right, let's go ahead and make sure everything worked. Fire up a new notebook with Python root. Wait till it loads. Might take a little bit depending on your internet connection. All right, there it is. Let's go ahead and confirm that it worked. You're going to go ahead and say from PySpark import Spark context. And if you actually click tab and stuff is showing up, that means it's definitely working. You'll run that, and then you're going to say sc is equal to Spark context. And then run that. It might take a little while, but as long as this runs, we know we're good. Okay, perfect. If you got all this to work, you are done and you're ready to move on to the next lecture where I'm actually going to teach you how to use PySpark. Okay, so just one quick note. Once you're done with all the Spark lectures and you're ready to just shut down everything, you can come over here, go to Actions, Instance State, Terminate it. Once you click Terminate it, keep in mind, you will no longer be able to access anything that was saved on that EC2 instance. And if you ever want to do this again, set up a Jupyter Notebook running Spark, you're going to have to follow the entire installation instructions that I just showed you. So keep that in mind. You get 750 hours per month for this instance free for 12 months if you're new to AWS. So that's quite a long time. You can keep it running if you want, but keep in mind they will begin to charge you if you pass the free tier limits. Okay, that's it. Now that you have this Spark notebook ready to go, you can go ahead and move on to the Spark lectures. We're going to teach you how to use PySpark and a Spark context and all that good stuff. If you have any questions, before you post them to the Q&A forums, you should really make sure to check that you followed everything step by step in the resource link and in this video. There's really no reason this shouldn't have worked for you unless you typed something in wrong. That's basically the only thing that could have happened since I'm running the exact same Ubuntu OS that you are. Again, make sure you check that resource link, and everything has to be letter per letter exactly as I typed it in order for everything to work. Okay, hope you enjoyed this lecture. I know it was long and it was a tedious process, but it's definitely worth it now that we have Spark running on a virtual EC2 instance. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you at the next lecture where we can actually learn how to use PySpark.